Hello, everybody, and happy Tuesday. It's a Stacy Cross Tuesday, which is always the best of all the Tuesdays. So, I have a little bit of a cold, a little kind of head cold. So if I seem a little spacier or a little slower than usual, you'll understand why. But we're here to see Stacy anyhow, so I'm not too worried about all of that. Ooh, Connie's here from Denmark and it's 5 p.m. I think after this I'm going to take a nap and get up and have 5 p.m. be the start of my day. And Christine says good morning to both of us, and so does Apple. Oh, Patricia's taking a break from her garden chores to catch a live chat, and I just harvested some more cherry tomatoes, shishito peppers, and jalapeno peppers. Like the garden, like I was complaining to Stacy about the temperature. However, in the garden, it's made it really, really, really happy. And hey, Patsy and Kim and Justine and Valerie and everybody else who's being shy and not saying good morning. So just in case you don't know who Stacy is, even though it's right below, it says Stacy Cross, McDougall Support Specialist.
They may not know what that means.
They're exactly.
Like, what is a McDougall?
Right. I'm going to have Stacy tell you all those things right now. So Stacy, we're going to go to you full screen.
Hello, friends. Good morning, everybody. Happy Tuesday. And my name is Stacy Cross. I work for the McDougall Program. We have a 12-day online program. It's medically supervised that we run people through. And the goal of the program is just to, through dietary intervention, help you guys arrest and reverse the progression of your illnesses and diseases, lose weight, and live more freely in your bodies and longer, happier, healthier lives. It's kind of our mission. Super fun. Get to see disease reversal and get to see people drop medications all the time. And it's just very rewarding and wonderful. I live in Texas. I'm a registered nurse. I'm a mom of 4 boys. I'm a wife. I'm a runner. I am a support specialist for the McDougall Program. And I'm just thrilled to be here with you. If you have any questions for me or for us, please feel free to ask them. We kind of wing it here. You know, there's no real official plan because questions come in usually, and they're always great questions. And no question too big, no question too small. And if I don't know the answer, I will say that. I have no problem at all whatsoever admitting when I don't know something, but I'll do my best to get you an answer if that ever happens.
And that's one of the things I like about you best, because I do that too. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And I don't know about you, I get that librarian look when it's obvious that someone's just faking an answer. Like, it kind of ticks me off.
Yeah.
Because that could be wrong information. And you and I have talked about this before, because just like a game of telephone, Stacy could tell me one thing and I could tell you something. And by the time it gets to your third friend, that's how McDougall myths often start. We've talked about that before too. So one of the things I like about the show the most is that a lot of McDougall myths are dispelled. And even in some of the very earnest McDougall Facebook groups, I will see some things too. And I'm always like, oh, what would, Stacy would say, because I think I had misquoted the 10% soy thing to you, and you were like, nope, there's no limit. Yeah. And I actually, the other day, I saw someone say 5%. Like, so, yeah. And so I think it's easy for these myths to perpetuate.
Yeah, it is. And, I think one thing that's an advantage for you, Kathy, having been through the McDougall Program, is you always have us. You can literally just email me. You can email Dr. McDougall, anytime if a question comes up for you. Unfortunately, what happens is the majority of the folks who are in these Facebook pages and on YouTube and all that haven't been through the program, so they don't have that direct contact with the staff of the McDougall Program. And so the rumors kind of proliferate that way when people don't have someone to give the official word on certain things. And it can be dangerous, especially, we've also talked about this, how folks in the chat, a lot of times the chats or the comments will give each other medical advice. And I just know I'm a licensed person, I'm a registered nurse, and I'm very careful with my license because my license can be revoked at any time if I'm stepping outside the bounds of my license. And that includes giving medical advice. But unfortunately, on the internet, if you have a bunch of unlicensed people, they can give each other medical advice all day long, and it can be very dangerous.
And it's very true too, because the people, they're just trying to be helpful. So let's also give
Right.
props. People are just
For
trying to be
sure.
helpful. So like,
Yeah.
but like when my friend, also, let me read this. I put this up on so everybody else could see. But Elizabeth said, "I'm so excited, Stacy, doing McDougall program in July, and you're my support specialist." It's Elizabeth
Yay.
Markowitz, which
Oh,
will be really
hi.
awesome.
Awesome.
Is that everybody's really trying to help, but it's also when you're a little nervous about doing something, it's very easy to accept the first information you get on a Google search. And I'm the anomaly. So I have gone 30 pages deep in Google searches in my lifetime. So like people come to me to find things that I don't know about on Google. So I see it so much of the time, but like my friend who was like, what, who was like, well, maybe I'll do the McDougall program with you, was like, well, I saw you couldn't have tofu or beans, so I can't possibly do that. And I was like, where did you see that? How, so I think what happens is we're already nervous about making a change, right? So whatever's the worst thing, we're going to like really pick up on that, I think sometimes, especially when the messages are everywhere from the carnivore diet to the, banana diet to everything in between, right? And I think that can be, if someone was looking, would you recommend that they go straight to the Dr. McDougall site?
Definitely, yes, because all of our information about the diet, how to follow the diet, how to do it, all of this is available completely for free on our website, which is drmcdougall.com. Dr. McDougall is so passionate about making sure that the information is accessible to all. So he makes it completely free. It's all there. There's nothing missing from our website. The only difference between just going on the website and finding the information or asking me questions and going through the program is that when you're in the program, you are actually a patient of our practice. And so we are treating you as a patient. You're being medically supervised. We're keeping track of your biometric numbers. We're doing, you're taking a lot of your vital signs each morning during the course of the program. And Dr. Lim is able to assess all of your numbers, your progress, how you're feeling, things like that, and make changes to your medications and adjustments, and sometimes even take people off of medications. When you're doing this on your own, especially if you have diabetes or you have high blood pressure, you do not really want to be taking yourself off of medications without doctor supervision on your own. That can be kind of scary. We don't want you passing out in the middle of the grocery store because you had a hypoglycemic event or your blood pressure, plummeted, and those medication adjustments can be very fine, and having an expert, having a medical doctor, a board certified medical doctor to help you through that is very helpful.
And I totally agree. And also, so just so you guys know, every time Stacy's on, if you look down, like you click more under the YouTube, I link straight to the program information, the consultations, all of that stuff down here. And I think, well, I used to have the free program is on drmcdougall.com. If you have trouble finding it, just put a comment and I'll put it in there again. But Cheryl joined in because she had such a drastic change after 4 days. So what I would suggest, I'm obviously not, I'm a recipe developer. I'm not a medical person at all. However, whenever I see somebody doing something without medical supervision, it makes me personally nervous. So listen to Stacy because she has she has the stuff behind it, but also, do you really want to risk that? That's where I come from. Do you, even if you have a doctor who's maybe not so thrilled with you going vegan or whole food plant-based, which I know I hear a lot of times when we do this, you have people who are like, just say, oh, I'm going to try some tweaks to my diet. You don't have to tell them what it is. Make sure you get your blood work done, and then maybe make another appointment or things like that. Is that something you would recommend? Just like, if I'm just like, I don't know if it's for me, I know I can get the Starch solution from my library. I think it's even on Audible, possibly for free if you're a member. So if I couldn't afford the Dr. McDougall program, what would be some really good steps for me just to dip my toe in?
Yeah. If you can't do the program, that's perfectly fine. There are a lot of folks for which the cost or the time commitment is just, it's not doable for them. And that's fine. The way I would recommend you do that, specifically if you're on diabetes medication or high blood pressure medication, or if you have any other not well controlled illnesses, like autoimmune illnesses for which you have, chronic repeated inflammatory responses, things like that. Anything that you are being medicated for regularly, you definitely want to let your doctor know about your dietary change, and you want to monitor your numbers. You want to monitor your blood pressure, certainly your fasting blood glucose. If you're diabetic, you need to be monitoring that day to day. And if you see those numbers go down, and they're getting down into like a normal range and you're still medicated, you need to let your doctor know, because at that point you probably need to be pulled off of the medication, and you can work with your doctor to begin to taper down on that medication. But for most of these medications, you do want to go through a tapering down process. I see it, and it's scary when people are like, I'm just gonna quit all my medications. And it's like, oh my God, like, I hope you're gonna be okay. It's just a little bit scary, because here's the deal. This is one thing that people don't realize, and it's really very true. Everybody who has diabetes is very concerned about their blood sugar going too high. Naturally, we're all concerned about that because that is diabetes, right? Our blood sugar is getting too high, and so we're taking these medications to try to bring it down. But what people don't realize is that a hypoglycemia, so your blood glucose getting too low, I might have said blood pressure. This whole time I'm talking about blood glucose. I'm sorry. The blood glucose getting too low is even more dangerous, because in that case, you can have a hypoglycemic event, and you can be out in the middle, like I said, in the middle of the grocery store. You could be at a concert or something like that. And the scary thing about that is, if that happens, you could fall, you could pass out and hit your head or break a hip or something like that. And those injuries can be catastrophic for people. They can be very hard to come back from. And so we never want to put someone into a position where they are suddenly, because of their dietary change, they're over medicated. And so it puts them at risk of a hypoglycemic event like that.
And that's really what Dr. McDougall was scared of with Cheryl.
Yeah.
Which was kind of interesting. So a couple of questions, not general questions. Sherry's saying, my husband was signed up for the July course but had to move it to October. Seems like you're doing fewer programs per year now. Is that correct?
No, we're doing the same number of programs. We do them about every 2 months. The issue that you may be seeing is that they're filling up more quickly than they did. Not sure why. There's probably a lot of little factors involved. We're really thankful, because it means we're getting to help more people. But every program this year has been full, and past capacity before the program began. So if I do want to mention, the last program of 2024 is in October. It's October 11th through the 22nd. If you want in that program, I would strongly encourage you to either go ahead and sign up or book a consultation with Dr. Lim. If you're on the fence, you're not sure if you're going to do it or not, that would be a great way to decide. because I would imagine that we'll probably close that program in September. So, I mean, you have some time to decide, but it'll be the last one of the year. And then our first program of 2025 will be in January.
Sorry, Cheryl's coming back in, so I'm going to see if I can put her. Let's move this back. She was here and then she wasn't, so I moved some things around. There we go. That's awesome, and I think it does seem like it fills up fast, and it also seems like October is so far away. Like I remember last year, I think it was in June that I signed up for the program, and I was kind of like, it was either the end of May or beginning of June. I was like, well, July seems so far off that I was kind of, because like usually when you're coming, or at least what I've seen, what tiny bit I've seen coming to the McDougall program, you're usually coming, if you're new, because you have a problem that you're seriously concerned about and you want to get some results right that second. And so I will say it goes by faster than you think it will. And if you meet with Dr. Lim first thing like I did, then you have some little homework things that you can do along the way. And I think that's,
expand on that a little bit. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Absolutely.
So guys, so we do have a program in July. It's completely full. So that's why I didn't mention that one. But if you are thinking about doing the October program, but it's like exactly how Kathy just described, it feels way far off. You have an acute issue that you need help managing right now. We do that all the time. So we can set you up for your first visit with Dr. Lim right away, like now-ish, rather than waiting till October. Your support specialist, even if you really need to, you can meet with your support specialist and they will go ahead and get you started on the diet. So they'll go ahead and give you all the pointers, tips, tricks, and the guidelines that, like Dr. Lim will give you your personal guidelines that he wants you to follow. And, you can even begin to make medication adjustments now before the program begins as well.
That's great, because I didn't even know about the support specialist. I know you and I met right after I met with Dr. Lim, I think, honestly. But believe it or not, no one can believe, but sometimes I can be kind of shy because I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to do my homework and I'm going to wait. But that's great to know, because you're always so awesome about answering questions if we email them and things like that. So I think that's great.
Beautiful.
Kim is saying, I was looking into the McDougall program. I'm concerned with my work schedule. It will be impossible to be a part of the early morning and evening meetings. Are there replays?
Yes. So even though all of the lectures of the program take place live on Zoom, they will be recorded as we go. And so we post that recording immediately following the gathering. We post it in our program website, and so that you can just go in and watch the recording whenever you're able to. I will say though, everyone who, I guess I shouldn't say everyone, but I hear a lot from people who go through the program and are trying to work their normal full-time schedule during the program that it's very challenging. So I usually encourage people, hey, if at all possible, try to take a half day here and there, maybe 1, 2, or 3 half days, so that you don't get too far behind. And then after the program ends, so once we graduate people out of the program, they have an additional 2 weeks to catch up on the recorded live lectures from the program before they go away.
You got it?
Yeah, I got it. Sorry, Stacy.
Okay.
I
gotta let
over there.
I have to let Max outside, I think. I'm turning my mic off for a minute.
We've got dog drama going on for sure. I'm trying to get back to.
I think there were probably a couple questions. I didn't get to read them, but I see question marks in the chat. So, yeah.
That's the wrong one.
Oh, here. Yeah.
Sorry.
It's the first two. All right. I thought that Cheryl had done it before. Let me just show. So it's the top one is both, and the bottom one is just Stacy.
Right.
And the questions, you just click that right there.
Yep.
So we're going to go to Stacy and then put up a question. And you're going to read it.
Okay. Susan says, I've been plant-based for 7 years, trying to do McDougall a year. I'm about 90%. My fingernails have gotten bad, chipping and breaking and thin. What can I add to my diet? I don't want powders.
I don't know. So your fingernails being bad. All right. So sometimes you see changes in your hair and your fingernails when you change your diet. It doesn't matter if you're changing from a diet of carrots and celery to donuts, donuts to barbecue, barbecue to whole food plant-based. It does not matter. Any diet change can cause changes in your hair and your nails. They will go back to normal. The best thing that you can do is not do nail treatments like at the salon. Don't go and get like shellac or whatever all those different things are. Leave your nails alone. I would baby them, maybe go get a little manicure and let them clean them up, and your cuticles and things like that. Keep your nails cut short while the unhealthier nail is growing out. But as far as adding things to your diet, I am not familiar with any particular foods that are shown or proven to help with nails. But I can tell you this, your whole entire body, from the top of your head to the tips of your toes, is greatly benefited from you just eating this way. Whole foods, plant-based, starch-centered, so that you're satisfied with your food and you're good and full. And lots of fruits and vegetables. That's going to help everything head to toe. And your nails are no different from any other part of your body, that they thrive in an environment of whole plant foods.
Awesome. All right, let's see where we are. Max did not want to go potty or have his treat. So this is going to be a delightful little day.
I'm so thrilled because I have 4 kids and they're all home-ish. One of them is gone, but the other 3 are here, and they're not asking for treats or anything. And I just feel like in this moment so amazed that my human children are leaving us alone. I can't even believe it.
Human children grow up. Animal children stay about 3. Yes, and then they get senile 3-year-olds going around.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Also my human children speak English, and I can say things like, I am going to be live on YouTube and cannot be disturbed. Go play. And they see it.
And my pupper's like, oh, the stuff's happening. They're going to be busy. They'll give me whatever I want. Like, it's total bribery. Did you ask Patricia's question already?
I did not.
Okay.
I didn't see it.
Patricia says, even though I eat a good dinner with lots of starches, I've been waking up hungry in the night, hungry enough to not be able to get back to sleep. Any suggestions?
Oh, that tells me that you're... Okay, well, I have questions. So I want to know what time Patricia is eating, what time Patricia goes to bed, and if she is limiting or restricting her food intake throughout the day in any way, shape, or form.
Okay, great. I'll keep an eye on that because I've got my laptop where I'm looking at the bottom of the questions while I'm doing the top questions over here.
Yeah, perfect.
All right. So you did that one. And Khaki Blue said I was hypoglycemic many years ago after a grand mal seizure. It was a very scary time. I bet it was. Yeah. Ooh, Elizabeth, who's going to be with you, had her consultation with Dr. Lim already, and he was amazing. I feel like he really heard me and got me. I'm so excited to begin. And I had the same experience. Yeah. So I don't really willy-nilly go out and say people are awesome unless I have that real connection.
And you at that point had a really bad thing about doctors. So you were really
had a
skeptical.
Bad, naughty doctor. And so I was like, I made Cheryl sit with me in the room while I did the call because
she was so nervous to do it, and she was just she didn't know what to expect, and she was anxious, and and she was.
And
You could just see the tension in her face when she was getting ready.
But he's such a kind person. I feel like he really, one of the things that I love about him versus maybe the way some other doctors are. So other doctors, you're coming to where they are, you're learning their language, how they talk, and learning how to translate that. And I know a lot of people don't think about things that way, but because I teach and I've taught since I was 12 years old, I'm always trying to meet people part way because it's very hard for people to come all the way to how you talk about things. And I feel like Dr. Lim meets you more than halfway. No matter what your obviously I only know my communication style, but like he really got me in a very small amount of time and got things that I don't usually talk about. So it was kind of amazing.
Well, he is genuinely, publicly and privately, the most wonderful person. I mean, I would trust him with anything, absolutely anything. He's genuinely good to the core. And the beautiful thing with him is not only does he take the time and care so deeply about each individual patient that we have, but he'll say things like, hey, if I ever say anything that is hurtful or offensive or, is confusing to you or anything, please call me on it. Please tell me. I want to do well. I want to be someone you can trust. I want to be someone you feel sees you and hears you. And I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I just have not heard that from any doctor that I've ever seen for any reason in my whole life,
Right?
So he is
it's shocking in a good way. Like it was literally shocking. Like I was kind of had my guard up, which I don't always, it's not usual for me to have a big guard up anyhow, but I had a guard up. He slipped right through it. And then all of a sudden you're just like, oh, I can talk to you because I think one of the fears, or at least one of my fears, when you've done things that you knew, and some people don't know, but you could have done better. You could have made better choices. And maybe you're coming from a doctor who basically was really blamey and mean about it, which doesn't help you make a change, in my opinion. And then you have someone who's like, oh, here you are right there. Let's work with you right where you are here. Let's don't talk about the things you could have done differently 5 years ago. Let's talk about how today can be different. And it makes it so manageable.
Yeah. And you don't feel judged by him ever. It's just, and like you're saying, he doesn't come, when you come through the McDougall program and you meet with Dr. Lim, he doesn't just demand everybody do 100% McDougall from day one. What he is always challenging our patients to do is, what's the next best step for you? What's the next thing that you can do to get you closer to ultimately how you want to be living? And I just think that's such a graceful approach. And when you put things in bite-sized, little steps that people can take, it's much less overwhelming and much more sustainable long-term.
Yeah, definitely.
And you got to meet him in like the middle of the night. No, it was like 11 p.m. our time. But like even then, it's just one of those things. He's just so kind. And already when you're coming to something like this, most likely, again, like new people at least are coming with a lot of fear and trepidation and all of this. And to have someone who breaks it down into little things, because it's so easy to be like past, future, everywhere, but right here in the present. Like, oh, you mean like it's really good if I just go make some rice today, right? And I'm like, oh, I can do that, right? Like you're thinking, well, what if these things happen, and what if those 17 things happen in the next 3 years? And I like it's the way I think about it. It's kind of like a very Zen approach, like be here now. What can you do right now? And that's such a more positive way to do things.
Yeah. I often will tell patients when I meet with them, hey, no matter how long your journey is going to be, to get where you're trying to go? Okay, first of all, you have to know where you're trying to go, right? So make sure you have a really clear, defined why and what. Okay, why am I doing this? And what am I trying to accomplish? You need to get really clear about that so that it quickly comes to mind when you need to draw on those for inspiration and motivation and just to help you keep going. But you also need to recognize that no matter how long your journey is going to take, how old you are, all the factors that we think, like either put it in the column of I'll be successful or in the column of I'll fail, I'm going to fail. We think that all these things are what make or break us. But ultimately, when it comes down to it, everyone's journey is done one day and one meal at a time. And so I always tell patients, hey, it can be very overwhelming. There's a lot to think about. There's a lot to do. There's a lot to change. What can you eat for lunch today that will be on plan to get you closer to your goal?
Yeah.
Do it, execute it, and then go, what's for dinner? It is really that simple. And I think it's really important to break it down like that, at least until you get into the groove of, stringing enough days into weeks, into months of eating this way. And then it becomes much easier and you can think more broadly and a little bit more long term. But in the meantime, it's completely fine to do this one meal at a time.
I love that. So Patricia gave us some information. I'm also asking her what she's eating throughout the day because that was one of the questions. She was saying I eat dinner about 6, bed about 11:30, wake up about 1:30 or so. So I don't think I'm doing anything during the day. So I was like, what are you eating through the day? Because I don't think that gave you the information nugget you need. Tell me if I'm wrong.
There's just, this kind of question is so difficult to answer because if I were Patricia's support specialist, I'd be asking like 15 questions in order to be able to try to answer this. But the first red flag that I hear is that she eats at 6 and then she goes to bed 5 hours later. So she's going to bed likely very, very hungry. And so I'm not surprised that she can't necessarily stay asleep at that point. You don't want to be, so this is something that I get all the time. Whoops. Everything okay?
She's got some more information, so I'm just going to add that in too.
Okay, go ahead.
So breakfast is something with berries. Maybe it says Ono, so I think it's a typo. Maybe oats with berries. Soup every day with a piece of toast and hummus. Supper is potatoes or other starch and 4 cups of veg.
Yeah, okay. I mean, yeah, I can't really speak much to that. It could be that that's enough food for her. It could be that it's not. What I would speculate is that she's going to bed too hungry.
Okay.
Now, it is normal by the time it's time to go to sleep to feel like you could eat. I could eat. That feeling that you get, I could eat. I could really eat something, or I kind of want to eat, but I'm not hungry. And there is a difference, and it's hard to discern, and you're not going to always get it right, and that's okay. But going to bed just a little bit like maybe I could eat is different from going to bed hungry. Going to bed hungry, I know for me, if I try to go to bed hungry, I'm going to have disrupted sleep. Now, do I get up in the middle of the night and go eat something? I think I've done that like twice in my whole life, just because I'm lazy as sin. And I just would rather lay in bed and think about how miserable I am than actually get up and go eat something. But there's very few things that I will get out of bed for in the middle of the night. But the point I'm trying to make is you don't want to go to bed so hungry that you're waking up to eat or your sleep is disrupted. So what I would suggest is go ahead and eat dinner at your normal time, but then maybe have a small bowl of oats right before you go to bed. I wouldn't, by the way, that is not a recommendation for every single person listening to this, not at all. In fact, it's better if you can avoid eating right before you go to bed because you just don't need those calories. But if you're having, your sleep interrupted. And certainly if you're having to get up in the middle of the night to eat, you should not have to do that. So having a little bowl of just oats, I wouldn't add really anything to it, just cooked oats, and eat that and see if that holds you over. So yeah.
That sounds like a great place to start. So I think that however, and then you can tell how that works.
Right. Yeah.
And that's where I get into trouble a lot. Staying up too late, and then I get hungry again, and so then I'll go
Yep.
get some rice out of the refrigerator or something. But that, that's a whole meal
Right.
I didn't need. So
Yeah.
But
So I tell my
sometimes,
kids this all the time, because if they're up late, especially now during the summer, they're up later than they usually are. It gets to be 9 o'clock, 9, 10 o'clock, and we're like, you guys need to go to bed. And they're like, oh, I'm hungry. We're like, no, you're only hungry because you're awake and you're not supposed to be. So we've got to figure this out, because we're not going to be eating again, in the middle of the night, essentially, for
Right.
them. So just tweak your timing and your schedule, your eating schedule, and see if that helps.
yeah, because we notice it becomes different. Like we kind of cycle together in our sleep cycle in a way. So I'm going to bed early because that's working better for me.
yeah.
And but also I'm usually getting up earlier too. So a lot of times I get that. Yeah, it's just interesting to see sometimes how things change. But like there was a while I was staying up really, really late, which I don't do super well with. I can do it for a little bit, but then I have to get my 8 hours of sleep. So if I go to bed at 3 o'clock in the morning, I have to sleep 8 hours. So some people, it seems like they go to sleep at 3 o'clock in the morning and they get up at 6 or 7, and
Right.
I'm hateful. Like literally, I am my absolute worst self.
I can do that okay for like maybe 2-3 days in a row. Like if there's something big going on at work and I'm having to, be up in the middle of the night kind of thing. But then I just hit a wall.
You're pretty hateful when you
Well, I
do
do
it too.
get a little hateful, but
And that's just
after about
normal. It's
2
not
days.
like, it's not like either one of us are tearing up the house or anything, but it's like you become very snippy. It's obviously not lending to you being your best self. I think.
Yeah, for sure. And let me just say something about sleep real quickly, because this is something that I think we don't talk about enough in lifestyle medicine. We don't emphasize sleep as much as we should. But the truth is, and in our culture, somehow we all kind of find it acceptable to like not get enough sleep. We'll even like laugh about it with our friends when we see them, like, I hardly slept last night. Oh, I'm going to be a mess today. Or, like even like you're saying, like, oh, I'm snippy and I'm cranky and I'm whatever.
Yeah.
And it's just this acceptable thing that we all kind of laugh about. But the reality is your sleep is so vitally important. It's as important as every other piece. So if you have the other pieces in place, you're eating healthy, you're exercising, you're reducing stress, you're not smoking, you're not drinking excessively, things like that. If you're going to take all the effort to do all that, but you're still like not addressing your sleep issues, you're missing it. It's so important. It's so vitally important, and you should protect your sleep. I'm going to say this, and it's not just because I'm a morning person. I promise. It's not just because I'm a morning person. I do happen to be a morning person. I am a go to bed early. Literally everyone in my life makes fun of me about it. They call me grandma. I cannot stay up late. I cannot. Unless I'm in a great, like really amazing conversation, but I will pay for it the next day, because my body, no matter what time I go to sleep, I will wake up between 5 and 6 without fail, 100% of the time. So I'm one of these people, Kathy, that you're describing. Like if I fall asleep, if I don't go to sleep till 3, which I was probably 20 the last time I did that. But if I don't go to sleep till 3, unfortunately, my body still wakes me up between 5 and 6. It's awful, miserable. And then I'm a mess the next day. But our natural human history, our circadian rhythm that is programmed into our bodies to make sure we get enough sleep and rest, which restores our brains and every other cell in your body, is in line with the light. So we are supposed to go to sleep soon after sunset and we are supposed to get up with the sun. And so if you're like, oh, I'm a night owl, I hate to break it to you, but you may really want to start making strides to change that, because that is not what is programmed into your human body for the best health and the best, sharp brain that you want to have, and your ability to process and carry on conversations and find the right word. And all of that is so affected by lack of sleep. And so, I would just strongly encourage everyone to look at your sleep, look at the quality of your sleep, look at the quantity of your sleep, and see how you can make strides towards getting back in line with what your body naturally is programmed to do.
And I will even say that in the winter, you do much better about going to bed on, like 10, 11-ish, which I think is good. So like what will happen to me when I'm paying attention, and I pay attention after I've had this like couple of months of being off schedule, is that I will get up in the middle of the show. If we're watching a TV show, it can be at the most important part, but I'm like,
She's like, I'm going to bed. I'm like,
and I'm like, you
That's
can watch
me.
it. You can watch it. I'll catch it up in the morning, because it's not like TV is like it was in the 90s, right? I can just catch right
Right.
up in the morning while I'm reading my email. It's not a big deal. But it's feeling that certain thing, like, because if I go past that personally, then it might be 4 or 5 more hours before I can actually get that same drowsy, ready to go to sleep feeling. So if I stay up past that signal, it's rough on me. Because like I can literally do all the same things I would do if I got up in the middle of the show. And now I'm doing all these very decadent things. Like I have a little heated eye massager that I got for $15 on TikTok. But it's awesome. It presses and it heats your eyes. And I'm listening to a book on tape. And I'm just like,
she's got one for her hands too. She puts her hands in there.
Nice.
I've had one for one of those shiatsu things for my feet since like 2019. And I use it every day. But it just, whenever I feel like I'm getting off schedule, if I find either a little routine, and it can be anything. So like the cat likes to come down. So the cat has a routine that he has me in. So I get into bed, I put a little t-shirt over me so he can need me as much as he wants without me breaking out the next day. He lays there, I put my little thing on, listen to my book, and he just snuggles with me for about 15 minutes, goes off and goes to sleep on the chair. And because I have that routine now, as soon as it starts, my mind starts shutting down and all of that. So I don't know if you have any suggestions for people that maybe are trying to do that, about a generalized routine, because they don't have Fergus to make the routine for them.
Well, I think what you did, Kathy, just now is you hit the nail on the head. It's all about routine and habits and cues. You don't realize that you're doing it, but you're following cues all day long to give you direction on what the next step of your day is. There are cues all throughout your day, visible and invisible. And whether you're conscious of them or not, that's what you're doing. And so I hear people all the time who say things like, oh, I can't go to bed early. I just can't. My body's not tired enough. Or I go to bed and then I wake up a couple hours later because I went to bed too early and then I can't get back to sleep and all this stuff. So much of this is just about whatever habit you have already established. So I recommend almost any lifestyle change that you're going to make, that you not be afraid to do it in little steps, stepwise fashion. Now there are exceptions, because I know, Kathy, you and I have talked about this before, where in some ways with the whole food plant-based transition. So, okay, I'm gonna do like a little bit of a tangent, but I'm coming right back. So don't worry, I'll bring us back. But when my husband and I went vegan overnight 7 years ago, coming up on 7 years ago,
Ooh.
we only knew about whole food plant-based. This is wild, okay? Because the way that we went vegan is we had seen Forks Over Knives, and then we watched What the Health. We didn't even really understand or know that you could be totally unhealthy vegan. Like, we just didn't know. we knew right from the beginning that you're supposed to try to eat whole foods, you know? And so that's what we did from the very beginning. It wasn't until months into our journey that we were like, what? There's a bunch of frozen pretend chicken that you can buy at the grocery store, or what? Whataburger has what? Or, you know, you can, French fries are vegan. I mean, we just didn't, we only did what we knew. And it just so happened that we were fortunate that we landed in whole foods plant-based. And so all that to say, oh my gosh, where was I going with that? Anyway, the point is, I think that we do what we know. We do what we know. And so if you're going to make a transition, sometimes it's easier to just rip the Band-Aid off and do the whole thing. So going from like the standard American diet to whole foods plant-based is kind of nice. Like, just go ahead and do it. Like, go ahead and get rid of all the cheese. Go ahead and get rid of, you know, the meat and the dairy and all that stuff, because it may be a tougher adjustment, but you're sort of ripping the Band-Aid off. Like, it's happening more quickly. But in many other ways, it's good to do it in a stepwise fashion. Sleep is one of those, because you're not going to go from being a person who stays up till midnight and sleeps till 8 to becoming, like, the very next day a person who goes to bed at 10 and sleeps till 6. Like, that's just not going to happen. It's not going to be able to happen. Your body is so accustomed to going to bed at midnight or later. It's too much to ask to just back it up by 2 hours. But we are able to sort of trick our bodies when we do it a few minutes. So 10 minutes, 15 minutes earlier tonight than you normally go to bed. And ultimately, the ultimate goal, the ultimate dream would be that you sleep and then you wake up naturally. Now, obviously, we have jobs, we have appointments, we have things like that, and oftentimes we have to use alarms. But ultimately, we should be sleeping to satiety in the same way that we eat to satiety, because your body knows what it needs. So if you at all have the ability to do that, where you begin to allow your body to sleep to satiety, and that means until your body wakes up naturally on its own because it's satisfied by the amount of sleep it's gotten, I would encourage you to start to do that and back up your bedtime by maybe 10 or 15 minutes every couple of nights until you get back to where you think is a good time to go to bed.
I love that. Khaki Blue is saying, if I go to bed with that drowsy feeling, I become wide awake as soon as I lay down in bed. Do you have any, like, and I've had that happen to me before. For me, most of the time I feel drowsy and I've waited too long. Or like, if I wait till I'm super, like, ready to go to sleep on the couch, then I go downstairs and I brush my teeth. I put on my nightgown, you know, my nightshirt or whatever. I go to the bathroom, and that's a lot of time in between where I literally would have fallen asleep. I don't know if that's...
Yes. Again, you hit the nail on the head, Kathy, because what it is it comes down to individual differences and individuals observing their own bodies for the answer. So I learned in college that I get what I call my second wind at 11 p.m. So if I'm able to stay awake until 11 p.m., it's bad. Like, if it's bad if I'm hoping to go to bed. I will wake all the way back up. It's like I've started all over again.
Yep.
And then I cannot get to sleep until like 12:30 or 1 at that point.
Oh,
but if
lucky.
I make sure, I know. And if I can, Cheryl, I mean, sometimes I can't even get to sleep by then. It's like, it'll be 3, sometimes 4.
And that's what's been happening with Cheryl.
Oh, it's awful. Okay, so Cheryl, what you need to do is you need to figure out when it is that your second wind kicks in. And you need to...
It's 11 o'clock. 11 to 11:30. Because I used to work third shift. And so I worked
a long time ago.
But I worked third shift for probably 10 years. And
right.
And still to this day, if I stay up past a certain time, my body's just like, nope, we're not going to bed till in the morning, like, kind of thing.
Yeah,
and
I think it's
rough.
very common. I think it's very common. In fact, since I mention this from time to time with people, they say, me too, 11 o'clock is my time. And I don't know what it is about 11 or 11:30. It may be nothing, but it seems to be the time where it's like you either have gone through your whole bedtime routine and you've gotten in bed and you've gone to sleep and everything went fine, or you pushed it back too far and shoot, now it's 11:30, and now you're really in for a long, awful night. So yeah.
And there are a couple more questions that I'm seeing at the end here. And you guys, I'm skipping some of the earlier questions to do the sleep questions. I'm going to get back to you as well, I promise. Karen said, how would you recommend people who work rotating day-night shifts get a routine to help improve their sleep? And our friend Jessica,
she does
works on a rotating schedule at the hospital. So she works a lot of times third shift, but then sometimes not.
I am going to be so honest right now, and I just want to apologize in advance because I know some people might not like this answer. I really think you've got to get off that schedule. I'm so sorry. I know that that's not always possible, but if there's anything you can do to get off that schedule, you will be better off. You guys know I'm a nurse. I got offered my dream nursing job a few years ago. It was exactly what I thought I wanted to do, but they only could offer me a night shift. And this was, I was 40. I was like freshly 40. And I was like, I have 4 kids in school. I'm 40. I can't do that. I have to sleep. I will not compromise my sleep because I know how vitally important it is to my overall health. You guys, if you look up sleep and you look at all the research, it's linked to everything: heart disease, diabetes, obesity, overweight, heart attacks, strokes, absolute cancer. Everything is linked to sleep, poor sleep. And I'm just not willing to sacrifice that. That doesn't make me better than anybody at all. But we do all have choices. And I just think, especially if you're middle-aged, like most of us are or beyond, your body just may not do very well with that kind of schedule. And it's going to be very hard to overcome the sleep deficit that you run into, especially if the worst case scenario is like a night shift, okay? Because then you're just chronically always not getting enough sleep. But this other thing, the split, or I forget what it's called, but the split shift or staggered shift type of schedule, I feel like can be even more problematic because then you can just never get into a routine. Your routine changes every 2 or 3 days. So I'm sorry that I don't have, better intel or better advice. And I'm sorry if this is hurtful to anyone who feels like they don't have a choice but to work that shift. You'll be okay. If it's what you have to do, it's what you have to do. But I would be working at all times towards figuring out what the next thing is going to be so that you don't have to stay in a shift like that.
I will add in, and Cheryl's going to try and take care of the whiny dog.
Okay.
So I'll just move here. Is that she actually has a room in the house that's her sleep room that she's blacked out everything. She's really done as much as she can to signal to her body that, so you might look into some of the stuff like that if that's what you need to do. And then there was another. GC was saying, if I go to bed early, I'll be awake for several hours till it reaches the time I normally would have gone to bed, and that's frustrating. I think it is frustrating when you move your sleep schedule. Think of how frustrating it is, daylight savings time. There's nothing that pisses me off quite like daylight savings time, right? Because by the time I'm like, yeah, I finally got in a groove from the last one, it's coming to mess things up. And even that 1 hour, but like last night, I didn't feel good yesterday. And so I stayed up till 10 just to try and keep my schedule correct. Because I wanted to go to bed at like 6. And I thought that is not going to, I wasn't feeling so sick. If I feel really sick or I have a really harsh virus, I literally will sleep 12 to 16 hours. My body goes,
Mhm.
it's sleep, and it will, I'm like, I will get out of your way. You fix whatever needs to be fixed. But I think
Right.
it is, you kind of, it's frustrating when you change at all.
But that's where I'm telling people change slowly, because the person that you just quoted there said, I go to sleep and then I lay there for hours until I would have normally gone to sleep. Oh, that is too
Yeah.
big of a jump. If it's hours between, you know what I mean? So in the example I was giving earlier, let's say you normally go to bed at midnight and you're trying to go to bed more like 10. This is just an example and it's round numbers, so I don't have to do too much math. That's the whole reason. This is not me telling you to go to bed at 10. Okay? So if you normally go to bed at midnight, tonight go to bed at 11:45. Seriously. Go to bed at 11:45, do that for a few days, then go to bed at 11:30. And then 11:15. Look, I can even do math backwards. 11:15 and then 11. And then, you see what I'm saying? And then
Yes.
do it every few days. Move it back 10 to 15 minutes.
I think that's really smart. And I think that just like in other things, we're like, ooh, I'm going to win 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
I've been going to bed at 3, but I'm
Right.
going to 9. And for me, I love reading. And so I'll try, if I
Mhm.
have a really yummy book, I also fall asleep when I read.
Yeah.
So,
Well, that's such a great example, Kathy, because this is where, again, you really have to observe and know yourself. Because you give my sister in law a book and she will stay up till 3, 4 a.m. reading it. So,
Cheryl is that way.
yeah, advising her to read a book to go to bed is like no bueno at all. However, you give me a book, you give me a TV show or a movie, I'm going right to sleep. So I know that I'm not going to get so engrossed into in a movie or a TV show or a book that it's going to wake me up or I'm going to stay awake longer. So I know that those things are very effective to help me ease off into sleep. So you got to know yourself.
I think those are great ideas too. And like sometimes we will do like sleepy time tea, but then we have to decide, did we have to get up in the middle of the night because we had tea
Right.
too late?
Yep.
So there is a lot of little bitty details.
Hmm.
Okay. Doo-doo-doo. I am going to go and switch veins to some other questions, if that's okay for
Sure.
you.
Yeah, of course. Hmm.
One, anti-venom, welcome. Do you find devices like the Lumen helpful to get to know your metabolism?
What is the lumen? I don't know what that
I
is.
don't know what it is either. Cheryl, do you know what the Lumen is? Okay, one anti-venom, if you put that in at the bottom, I'll come back to you because oh, you
I
do?
can answer the question. I do not know what the lumen is, but you do not need a device. Whenever I'm asking myself that kind of question, like, ooh, should I do my fitness pal or should I put this in this device or should I do that? I think
Oh,
about
I know what it
all
is.
of, yes.
It's the thing you blow in for your met- metabolism something. So it looks like you blow into it and it has a CO2 sensor and flow meter to determine the carbon dioxide concentration in your breath, which indicates whether your body is burning fat or carbs. So it's one of those things.
Please do not. No, absolutely not. You do not need that. You do not need, if you are non diabetic, you do not need a continuous glucose monitor. Please don't do these things. They are essentially oftentimes creating anxious conditions in people because all of a sudden you know what your blood glucose is all the time. And it can be very anxiety provoking if you don't know the meaning of the numbers that you're looking at. So I do not recommend that you do any of that stuff unless your doctor has a specific reason. If you have been diagnosed with diabetes and you're having a really hard time getting control of your blood glucose and you're trying to adjust medications and things like that, they may suggest a continuous glucose monitor. In that case, sure. But a regular old person who has not been diagnosed with diabetes should not be on a CGM. Um, and with this Lumen breathalyzer deal, it doesn't matter because ultimately, you guys just remember the answer is you're eating a starch centered, whole food, plant based diet, no matter what those devices tell us or don't tell us. The answer is always the same. Okay. So what you're doing is you're wasting, oftentimes these can be for people who have not been diagnosed with something that they need these things for. They're a waste of money. They're definitely a waste of time because you can become very consumed with the numbers and chasing the numbers. But they also can create worries and stresses and anxieties. And let's be honest, in this world today, we don't need extra things to worry about. Okay. So I
No.
just strongly encourage you guys away from those. Same with blood pressure monitoring. If you do not have a blood pressure problem, you don't need to be checking your blood pressure once a day, twice a day, 3 times a day. If you have elevated blood pressure and it's not well controlled by medications and your doctor's wanting you to monitor, sure, that's fine. But don't do it for fun because it doesn't end up being fun. You end up giving yourself high blood pressure because you're so worried about it.
I'm laughing because the thing I disliked most about the 12-day program was
Yeah.
taking my blood pressure every
All the
day.
time.
And
Yeah.
because I'm stupid, I'm not good at it. And so even thinking about it, you see how my whole demeanor changes? So like
Yeah.
sometimes I would take it 4 times because then it would just be like, it's not going to work. Like, we don't know. Or it'll be like, it's 8,000. And I'm like, of course it is because you're stupid. And it would work me up. And you
It would have worked her up to where it would be high every time because it worked her up.
I put on spa music. I put my feet on the floor. I do like I had to have this whole routine, and because I never think about wanting to have that kind of information all the time, but it really was like the bane of my personal existence because
Yeah.
it just made me feel stupid every time I did it. So it definitely had the opposite effect. So I could see like, and if I was blowing, you check your glucose monitor sometimes
And I
too much.
check it too much, and how many times? Even look, Dr. McDougall was like, quit looking at it, like, because
100%.
I just kept freaking out about things. You stop looking at it. How many times has Stacy told me stop looking
A
at
lot.
it?
Can I say, Cheryl, I have to be like, here we are live. I'm going to say this to you. Even now, even still in our meetings, how often are you like, well, I ate such and such, and then my blood glucose was this. And I'm like, again, Cheryl, again. And you know what? I never get tired of saying it. I never get annoyed. I'm never like, why doesn't this person learn? Because it's human nature. We are so programmed for survival that the minute that we think something is threatening our survival, we're on it. We are on it. And so that's the thing. I see this all the time with people who are pre-diabetic or have diabetes, or the people who are on continuous glucose monitors who don't have diabetes at all, is they're like, I ate rice and it spiked up to 200. And it's like, that's exactly what it's supposed to do. That's
It's
what
a difference
happens.
between having a little bit of general information and then us having all these super, super, super specifics. Because, and we've
Right.
talked about this so many times, everybody gets caught in the minutia. Even if you're like, everyone gets caught in the minutia, like I just said. And probably in the next 24 hours, at some point, I will
She's
be
gonna be
caught in some
something.
minutia. Right?
Absolutely.
I think it's a human thing. Like what you can do is kind of be aware of it and go, maybe I'm giving this a little bit too much thought. But
You have to fight it. I find you have to fight it. You have to be very cognizant of when you're being pulled in to the weeds. And you have to get yourself out of there because it is so natural and it will happen to you like you're a victim of it. But you're in control of what you listen to and what you watch and what you give your emotional energy to. So you've got it. And by the way, I'm not lecturing anyone. I'm saying this as someone with experience with this. I got so far into the weeds when I started doing this lifestyle and started eating this way. It was craziness. I was doing all kinds of stuff. I went out and bought every single amla powder and black cumin and like all this nonsense. By the way, I'm not trying to in any way disparage any doctors that recommend these things. They all mean well. they're giving you real information, but you can get so caught in those little tiny details that it takes over your entire life. And that's what it did for me. And eventually I just had to push it all away and go, no, here I am eating the McDougall way. That is enough. And it's going to have to be enough because I want to live my actual real life out there. I don't want to make a whole life out of this.
I think that's such a great point because, like, there is very much a difference between finding people who are like-minded and supportive and learning everything you can all the time about whole food, plant-based living lifestyles, studies, because it is both good and bad that science has gotten so good, but we get new studies every day. So we're going to keep going up the staircase of information, right? And so I think that you pick this point, like what you're saying, I'm going to eat whole food plant-based. And that's where you stay. And then maybe in 5 or 10 years, we find maybe we will add some more blueberries to our oatmeal. That sounds like a great idea instead of it being, you know, like when, and I know I'm going to start this and I'm sorry, but you know, Dr. Greger was like, bananas and blueberries is not the best thing, but you know, eat more blueberries. Problem solved. I will, yes, thank you. I shall love having the blueberries, but instead of thinking, oh, I could lose 1/17 of this thing that this might be giving me, because that's not really going to help, because honestly, then you go down the black hole of how do I know how much my body's absorbing, right? Like, and you're like, the reason that they don't tell you at the doctor's office all those things is because there's not really a good way to measure those. So let's just let that go.
Well, and then we went through a little period, like I don't know if it was back maybe during COVID or whatever, where we started getting in the minutia of the smoothie thing. Like, you know, were we getting nutrients from the smoothie thing? Should we be doing something?
Well, that's a whole other whole food plant-based thing. You know, some people, and again, we're talking Dr. McDougall today, but there is a subset of doctors that are like, don't ever do smoothies. Mm-hmm. Dr. McDougall is one of those. And then there are other people who are like, smoothies are great. You know, before Cheryl would eat greens, I was good for giving Cheryl a smoothie with greens because that was the only way she was going to get them in her.
Can I interrupt just real quickly to say, Dr. McDougall definitely does not say do not ever drink smoothies.
Oh, okay. That wasn't,
yeah.
Thank you for correcting me.
No. So smoothies, our guidance on smoothies is only based on the fact that most of the people who come to us for help are trying to lose weight as a part of the health goals that they have. And smoothies can actually slow and even stop your weight loss, because what you're doing is you're taking, you know, 2 bananas and 15 strawberries and a mango and like 8 cups of greens and all this stuff that would be this big if you put it all out on a plate, and you're smooth, you know, you're putting it 1,000 slices per minute or whatever through a steel blade, and you're making it small and you're liquefying it. And you're doing essentially a lot of the work of digestion, yes. which when you put those foods through your body in their whole form, your body has to do all that work. So you don't end up absorbing all those calories. You're actually using some of those calories to digest. Okay, so bear in mind that if our advice is to not use smoothies if you're trying to lose weight, what would our advice be for someone who is trying to gain weight or someone who's in cancer treatment and they need to keep their calories up? It would be smoothies.
Have smoothies,
okay?
Yeah, right?
Go ahead and have some smoothies. And even people who are trying to lose weight, some people really well control what goes into that smoothie. And for whatever reason, it feels particularly filling to them. And they observe that they feel great and they don't need to eat more and they continue to lose weight. Fabulous. Go ahead and have smoothies. They're fine. There's nothing inherently wrong with a smoothie. It's just that a lot of times people are drinking it because they think it's helping and aiding in their weight loss. And oftentimes it is not and can actually hinder their weight loss.
Thank you for that. And that's really great. I know because there's always these kind of arguments in the general community about them. And I will say, if it's particularly hot, and now if I'll do a smoothie bowl, like, but
Mhm.
at least Dr. Greger, and again, we're getting minutia, but Dr. Greger's like smoothie bowls are a little bit better because at least you're putting each bite in your mouth, letting those enzymes get to it. And what you choose with that or not is up to you. But if it's too hot where I need to eat, but I wouldn't eat anything, a smoothie bowl is delightful. Or if I don't feel good, like today, I made some rice before I came on here, so I have something nutritious to eat. If I wasn't also trying to feed Cheryl, this would be when I don't feel good is when I would make a smoothie, because I can make a big smoothie, drink on it all day, which is very different than me waking up feeling all good, popping back that smoothie and then going and having breakfast and maybe popping back some other beverage and having something. So I do agree that oftentimes smoothies can be a way to get a lot of calorie density into you quite quickly without any of that added digestion too. So it's interesting. But thank you so much for clarifying that. And everybody isn't in it to lose weight. And that's something else to think
Correct.
about too. I mean,
Yeah.
so that, yeah, anyhow, I'm spacey and have a head cold. So
That's
let's go
okay.
to,
But all that to say, smoothies are okay as long as they're not hindering your weight loss. And only the scale, it's not a perfect tool, but it is a helpful tool. Only the scale can tell you if you can get away with drinking smoothies and continuing to lose weight, if that's one of your goals.
okay, I love that. And kind of segueing into that, Azaria says that she's been stuck with no weight loss since January. Recent labs shows that her glucose is up over normal. She's never been pre-diabetic range before. She noticed that she's been sweetening things with dates more. Could that be the problem? And I don't know if that's enough information.
Yes. I think so. I think
Okay.
so. I can speak a little bit generally. So dates are very calorie dense. They're wonderful. I know that they're a great natural sweetener. And if you are not trying to lose weight and you're just there in the world and your weight is stable, dates are a fine thing to use and to eat. You still want to go easy on them because they are calorie dense. You can quickly pack in a lot of calories eating dates. However, if you are trying to lose weight, dates, I see time and time again, end up being people's little thorn in their side because they think, and there are so many people cooking and preparing foods with dates online, healthy things, that and oftentimes we just don't stop and think through it, like, oh shoot, dates are really calorie dense, like maybe I need to be very careful and judicious about when and if I use dates. So I would take it easy on the dates. I would scale way back. Now in terms of your blood glucose being elevated above normal, again, the dates could be the culprit simply if before you had your blood drawn, you had some dates, your blood glucose, your fasting blood glucose, or you may not have been fasting if you're just having routine blood work. Dates can affect that, but so can everything, rice, beans, everything affects your blood glucose. So, I would continue to keep an eye on it. Probably it's an indicator that you may have some more weight to lose. And in that case, if that's what you're trying to do, then I would really steer you towards a lower calorie density diet. So looking in your diet where there may still be things like nuts and seeds, avocado, breads, baked goods, certainly dried fruit juices, things like that are considered like empty calories or are very calorie dense. Those types of things can stall your weight loss. Also bear in mind that as you lose weight and you get in a smaller and smaller body, your smaller body requires fewer calories to do all the same things it used to do than your bigger body required. So I'll use myself as an example. So I lost 55, somewhere between like 57 pounds. 57 pounds down from when basically I stopped weighing. So I actually probably ended up losing more than that. but around 57 pounds is what I lost eating this way. The number of calories that this body that I'm living in now need to get from A to B is far fewer than it was when I was 57 pounds heavier. Now, some people think, oh no, like what hope is there for me? Because there's no way I can eat fewer calories. Like I'm hungry. Bear in mind that your hunger drive will also change in response to your smaller body. This is where trusting your body's hunger and fullness cues comes into play. Because if you're just following somebody else's advice about how many calories you should eat each day, you're not listening to your body's hunger and fullness cues, and your body knows what it needs, and it will only ask for what it needs calorie wise. But when you're responding to your body, you want to be eating low enough in the calorie density scale that you're naturally losing weight without having to weigh and measure your food. And the way that you do that is you focus on the water-rich cooked starches like beans, rice, corn, quinoa, barley, oatmeal, pasta, those over drier starches like cereals, dry oats, popcorn, crackers, things like that. Those are more calorie dense, and fruits and vegetables. And that's what you focus your meals. You center your meals on fruits, vegetables, and water-rich cooked starches. You listen to your body's hunger and fullness cues, and you will naturally lose weight.
And I would like to add this because you even recently talked to Cheryl about this, which is adding beans. So if you're feeling hungry, add some beans too. I know that all the other things, like I think sometimes people either forget beans are in there, but I've been like when I went away for a little mini vacation and cooked up Cheryl this big pot of nice heirloom beans so that she could just cook some rice and have some things and not have it be so complicated. But that's all. I think I usually feel better, honestly, if I'm eating and more full, if I'm eating potatoes and sweet potatoes sometimes than rice and vegetables. But I find it shifts for me sometimes too. Like since it's gotten warmer, I'm not craving like regular potatoes. I'm craving rice and vegetables. So it's kind of interesting to see the more I pay attention, the more my body is giving me information. If that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Okay, this is a question from my friend Jeremy, who's in the plant pod, and he's the dragon boat racer. Remember, he had asked, or he does. He's very athletic. He said, "Here's one: when you cut out the junk and have an eat out day with more fat, you get a refreshing sleep. What is that?" So basically, he's saying, and because he was eating really, really clean. I know he's been going out to eat a little bit more, so that just means he's not going and getting deep fried everything, but he's having more fat from that, whereas at home he's not cooking with any fat. He does whole food, plant-based, no oil. So he was associating the eat out day with getting a refreshing sleep that night.
The only thing that I can figure, and this is really a guess. I mean, it is an educated guess, but I can't guarantee this is the answer. And that is that your body is just having to work a lot more at digesting that. And so a lot more of your blood is being shunted to your digestive tract to handle that food. And so you get drowsy. I think we all know what it feels like to go have for example, a very big Italian meal or Thanksgiving. Think about Thanksgiving dinner. Okay. We have Thanksgiving dinner. You stuff yourself like crazy. And then what do you want to do? Go take a run? No, you want to lie on the couch all afternoon or go to sleep. It's exactly that. Your blood is being shunted to your digestive tract to process that food. And so the more, the richer foods that you're eating require more work by your body. And so I'm guessing that's what it is. I also, Jeremy, I would not guess that you're actually being more refreshed by that sleep. I would guess that maybe you end up sleeping longer or deeper because you got a really full belly. So you may experiment with eating more of your whole natural plant foods for dinner, making sure that you're really good and full before you go to bed, not just when you go out to eat and end up gorging yourself on, slightly richer foods. At home, it may be that you are routinely under eating at dinner, and that's why you're not sleeping as well as you do on those nights when you go out to eat. The reason is because you are passively consuming more calories when you go out to eat because the food's more delicious. So you may just need to focus and concentrate some effort on getting more starches, more food in your belly at dinner to sleep a little bit more settled.
And Jeremy said, yes, it was the deep sleep that increased. So
Yeah,
he's agreeing with you. So I know you have to leave in a couple minutes, so we're going to do a little rapid fire. I
sure.
suspect I might know the answer to this one, but video 1000 nights. Suggestions if you were whole food, plant-based, no oil 90% of the time, and vegan junk food the other 10%, held significant weight loss off for 2 to 3 years, then gained 15% of lost weight back. Did not recall changing diet. So I'm wondering if that's an age thing, but you would know more than me.
Um, the scale is just a reflection of whether what you're doing is going to work for weight loss or not. So I wouldn't worry about that. I wouldn't sit there and spend really any mental energy on trying to speculate as to why or how or when or where, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. What the scale is showing is that you can't quite get away with the way that you're eating and continue to lose weight.
Yeah.
So you'll need to scale back on the richer foods. So if you're at 10%, 90%, now let me just say, and this is not at all to dog this lovely person who video 1000 nights who gave this question. I just want to point something out. Anytime someone says to me, I'm 90% compliant, or I'm 95% compliant, or I'm 10% blah, blah, blah. I eat until I'm 80% full. It's a pet peeve of mine only because it is so impossible to quantify how you're eating with a number percentage. It's not accurate. And so what I would encourage you to do instead of seeing it as like, oh, 90% on plan and 10% off plan, you've got to write down what you're eating if there's any question as to why you're not still losing weight. Because here's why I point this out is because if you're eating fruits, vegetables, and water-rich cooked starches 90% of the time, and then 10% of the time you're eating peanut butter, that is going to be a huge chunk of excess calories. Because if you're eating 10% of your food in your day in the form of peanut butter or ice cream or fried fish or whatever, that could make a massive impact. But if you're telling me 10% of the time you eat, crackers with a smear of store-bought hummus, that probably won't impact you as negatively. So you see what I'm saying? It's like saying 90%, 10% it just doesn't tell enough information. But what the scale can tell you, and by the way, the only thing the scale can tell you is what you are able to get away with and what you are not. And so if you've stopped losing weight, then you need to scale back on the richer foods and bump up your water-rich cooked starches, fruits, and vegetables.
I think that's great. And I do understand because we also use the percentages just to kind of give ourselves a guideline. So not saying that we always do things right because we don't. And birthday months, we've told you guys and Stacy that we started going out too much. We weren't going out 10%, which is about one time a week. I think it's really like 1.5 times a week. So that way if we skip one and we go twice another week, it feels okay. But when we're doing something like going to, for us, we made a kind of a clear guideline. What's good? Good is going to the one bowl place that's Korean for us. Good is going to the vegan Indian buffet. Bad is going and getting a vegan burger or a vegan hot dog, or what's maybe bad is the wrong word.
Yeah,
what we're trying not to comply with, like what is off plan. That's a better word to add.
Right.
Off plan for us would be this. So something that we might do once a year, we weren't putting in that 10%. So like just in case someone else is using that, like it helps Cheryl and I to put a number sometimes to what we're doing to see, but we also have very long, ridiculously long conversations about what goes on these, and you hear them too. You know, what goes on the, yes, we're glad, this one, we don't feel bad when we do it. The scale doesn't go up when we do it. You know, we have qualifications. So I love that you're saying, if you're just not sure what the heck is going on, then yeah, always eat more water-rich, starchy foods too. Because I think sometimes, and we've done this too, is you get into this minutia of what's okay and what's not okay. It's great when you're making your personal rules. I think it's helpful, but going along your day, it's not that helpful. Do you know what I mean? To kind of go, oh, well, now I need to decide. That's when you start deciding, should I have this sweet potato or that sweet potato? All sweet potatoes are delightful sweet potatoes, right?
Right. And you have to be really reasonable about what actually is the issue. I can't tell you how often people show up for their support specialist check-in with me and they tell me things like, oh yeah, I went out to eat like 3 times this week, which is more than I usually do. But then I got these sweet potatoes and I really liked them. So I ate a bunch of sweet potatoes this week. I think it's a sweet potatoes is why I gained weight this week. And I'm like, no, it's not.
Right.
Sweet potatoes are your weight loss food. Probably it has more to do with the fact that you went out to eat more often this week than you normally do. And the scale is telling you 3 times in 1 week is too much for you to continue to lose weight. Now, also, remember, everything's not black and white. Almost everything is gray. So the answer isn't always don't go out to eat. The answer may be you need to be making a little bit better choices when you go out to eat, or go out twice instead of 3 times, or, go out to this restaurant instead of that restaurant. So, every little bit counts. You don't have to be 100% perfect in order to see results. You just need to be willing to do things differently to try to get the scale moving again.
And I love that. I think that is such a reasonable statement that anyone who's kind of nervous about trying something new, that's such an easy thing to do, right? Okay. And again, it's not saying that it's never going to be hard, it's never going to be tweaking or things like that, but I think, that you find your balance, and I think that that's so helpful. Mm-hmm. So, okay, we've got just a couple minutes. I think we have 2 more questions. Sure. T.S. says, my blood pressure at home tends to run really well, which I would assume is perfect. However, at the doctor's office, it's really high. I relate to that. They retake it standing up and still high. Trying to relax doesn't seem to help. Any suggestions?
Well, that's white coat syndrome. It is real. Yes. Now, I will say, there are some indications that white coat syndrome can be indicative of future issues with blood pressure. And if you think about it, it does make sense. It's like if just the act of getting your blood pressure taken at the doctor's office makes your blood pressure go sky high, what that indicates is a lack of control over stress. So what I would suggest is take it as the little tiny squeaky warning voice that it is. It's tiny, okay? This isn't a big deal. This is not going to kill you. This is not going to kill you. Please hear that. This is not the kind of blood pressure that people die from or have heart attacks from. However, it is a message from your body to you that you are not in your body managing stress as well as you probably could. So I would just say overall in your life, it may be helpful to have a meditative practice or have, some deep breathing and things like that you do regularly, not just when you're going into the doctor's office and anticipating getting your blood pressure taken. Because likely, if you're having those spikes at the doctor's office because of white coat syndrome, you're probably also having them when you get in a traffic jam or when you're running late to an appointment, or things like that. And what we want to do is we want to be responding to stress in a way that we are not straining and stressing our hearts every single time something stressful happens. So listen, that's not a diagnosis. That's not me saying, oh yeah, TS, you definitely have high blood pressure, or you're going to have high blood pressure, or anything like that. And by and large, white coat syndrome, it's not progressive. You know what I mean? It's not something that it's like, uh-oh, you really got to watch out. But it is, like I said, a tiny subtle message from your body that you need to find ways to cope with and handle stress better, so that you're not internalizing it and causing yourself to go way up here to 10, when life stresses come your way.
That's really great advice. And for me, I don't like someone grabbing me.
Yeah.
And so it squeezes. And so, like, if it was someone squeezing me in the real life, I would just go, punk. But I found, just I agree with everything you said too. But just like, I make sure my feet are on the floor. There's some things I learned, like just have my feet on the floor. There was this place I went that you floated in the water and they played music. So I literally remember what that felt like and relax everything in my body. And then ever since I've been doing that, I get a normal blood pressure at the doctor. But I have to know that someone's going to grab me. So I have to go, someone's getting ready to grab me. I'm floating in the water in my own happy place. And they kind of taught me how to do that at the doctor. So
can I just make one other suggestion? I love that. Yeah, go to a happy place mentally, put yourself in a happy place that you remember and you love. Also, a little bit of a controversial statement here. And if you have blood pressure issues that you're being monitored for, or you're on blood pressure medication, this may not be good advice for you. But generally speaking, for a person like TS who says, normally their blood pressure is fine, they're not on blood pressure medication, they don't have an ongoing blood pressure problem, you could say, first of all, you're in the driver's seat. You are in charge of your own health care. And so you can say to the doctor, I know that I have doctor's office induced elevation of my blood pressure, and it really stresses me out and upsets me. I regularly, routinely take my blood pressure at home once a week. Here's what it's been running. And you give them your readings and you say, I will not be having my blood pressure taken at the doctor's office because I know that I'm not having blood pressure problems.
oh, that's really great too. That's great to kind of take control of things. Like now, after fighting with taking my own blood pressure, I'm so much happier having the doctor take it too, that it's just, that helped too. But yeah, I love the idea of writing down what your blood pressure has been, and that way they have a really good, accurate account. And I know we've kept you a few minutes.
No, it's okay.
So do you?
It's okay. If you have another question or two, I can do that before we wrap up. It's up to you.
There's a question, but it's more of a statement. Karen says she noticed when she fasts 1 day a week and also fasts 16 hours a day, it helps pick up her weight loss. Do you want to talk about that?
Sure. So just so that everybody is fully aware, as of today in 2024, it's June 18th, okay, there hasn't been any clear, conclusive evidence in the studies that have been done on fasting that intermittent fasting ultimately is beneficial for weight loss or for overall health. Now, having said that, anecdotally, person to person, there are lots of people who say, hey, this has been a huge benefit to me, and here's how I observed it in this way, this, that, and the other. Perfect. That's great. That's wonderful. We do know that when we're in a fasted state, which is usually overnight for most of us, your body is able to do a lot of things that it doesn't do all day when it's digesting. Think about it. If your body's giving its resources to digesting your food, it's not necessarily going in and doing the clean out and the cleanup job that it does when you are in a fasted state. So yes, a fasted state for an extended period, my understanding is that, around 12 hours, which is our natural fasted state, is really great. But you do not need to intermittent fast. You do not need to have timed meals or specific meal timing in order to do well and have great health benefits and lose weight and do all the things we're talking about. The other thing that I want people to bear in mind is when you are fasting, you are not taking in calories, obviously. That will cause you to lose weight, but you need to be so careful if you've decided this is something you want to do, because yes, you're taking in no to fewer calories when you're fasting, but your body keeps the score, which is one of my favorite quotes. Your body keeps the score. So your body knows when you have eaten under your hunger drive. When you have told your body no, when it said, we're hungry and we want something right now, and you say no, your body doesn't go, okay, cool. Your body goes, all right, well, you just wait because I'm going to be coming back kicking and screaming in a few hours here, or tomorrow, or next week. And your body will get the calories it needs because it is a survival machine. The only reason you're alive today is because you are an amazing survivor. Coming down at the tail end of a long, long legacy of survivors. And so your body is so attuned to exactly what it needs at all times. And if you don't give it what it needs, when it demands it, it will scream louder and louder and louder until you have no ability to reason and your body's like, there's some Doritos and I want you to eat the whole bag, and you're not going to be able to say no because you have been systematically under eating for a number of days, weeks, however long. It may not be today, it may not be tomorrow, but your body will demand those calories. It will not miss those calories because it knows that you won't survive if it allows you to do that.
Yeah, I've certainly felt that in the past as well. And one thing that's being talked about too is we were talking about blood pressure, and that if you're having an issue, you can bring in your blood pressure chart. Beth is also reminding everybody you can decline to be weighed at the doctor's office and weigh yourself. Yes. And our doctor is a healthy at any weight, which means she doesn't weigh unless you ask her to. So it's the opposite. So she's happy to keep track of it if you want to, but she feels like she gets a lot of information from the labs. But even no matter what kind of doctor you have, like there's a story of the person who is behind Rancho Gordo Beans. He went to a new doctor, got on the scale, and the physician's assistant was already talking to him about weight loss surgery. They hadn't even gotten his past history yet. So to me, that's the ultimate example of a bad situation. That, you know, like they hadn't taken his blood pressure. They hadn't done any, like it was horrifying, in fact. But if it makes you mentally unhappy to weigh at the doctors, I think it is important for us to know that we're paying them for a service. They're helping us. So if that's not helping you, you can opt out of it.
Yeah, I mean, I always tread lightly around this subject because I have a tremendous amount of respect for medical practitioners and for doctors and the education that they receive and all of that. And believe me, I am seeking a doctor's opinion and advice if I'm ill. Absolutely. I'm going to. I'm not anti-doctor. But there's a fine line. There's a delicate balance. You need to go in as a consumer who is at the helm of your healthcare. You are the one who's driving the ship. However, humble yourself and know, I am not a doctor. I am not up on all the stuff. I don't understand how this all works, because I do occasionally, I see patients who have decided to advocate for themselves to such an extreme that they think they know more about medical things than their doctor does. And that can be obviously dangerous also. So stay humble, but stay clear that you are in control and nobody gets to do anything to your body without your permission. And without your understanding, one thing that Dr. McDougall says a lot that I love, he empowers patients, especially people who have been like newly diagnosed with cancer, they're being presented their treatment options and things like that. Dr. McDougall says, hey, for any treatment option that is offered you for any disease or illness, you need to ask your doctor, what is the evidence? Can you provide me with the evidence that this treatment will do me more good than harm? That your doctor should be glad and happy and perfectly fine to provide you with that. Otherwise, why are they suggesting that treatment? That is a totally reasonable ask to ask your doctor. But stay humble. You know, there's a difference. I mean, it's subtle differences in communication. Look, watch this. I'm at the doctor's office. What's the evidence that that'll do me more good than harm? Versus, thank you so much for sharing this opinion. I'm definitely interested in knowing more. Do you happen to have any papers or research, anything that could point to the evidence that this treatment will actually do me more good than harm? What a huge difference. I literally said exactly the same thing, but I said it with humility. But rest assured, I still know I'm in control in this situation and that ultimately I get to decide what I do and don't do.
I love that. And I love the way you're giving people the parameters, because I think it's easy to overcorrect. If you've been super passive at the doctor for 50 years, it's easy to overcorrect and be like, And And my whole thing is, in all of life, is what way can I put this that I get what I really need? And I do that with everything when I'm talking to you guys. You know, how can I put this where you can hear me if that's what you need to hear? One of the reasons, and I talk about how I love my doctor. My doctor's not whole food plant-based. She doesn't know all of this information. However, she'll be like, I think this would help you. How do you feel about that? So like, I feel like she starts this great conversation with me. So it's very easy for me to fall into it. And sometimes from the other doctor, there was not that conversation. There was like, you're going to go do this. Because she'll be like, well, I'd really like to get this ultrasound just so we have the information for later. Would you be interested in doing that now, or should we just talk about it later? And she puts it in her notes. She goes, and because of my personal experience with my last doctor, she tells us all the time, it's your choice. You get to decide if you're okay with it. And most doctors don't do that, but that is one of the big reasons that I love her so much, because she makes sure that she puts that choice back with us. And I feel like some doctors really are like, nope, you've got to do it my way. You came in here. And so that's where the odds back and forth comes from. But thank you for putting both of those parameters in so people can kind of look at that and see where they are.
Yeah. Can I say one more quick little thing? I don't have a story for story time, but I do have an exhortation for the group, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
This subject really, for me, touches on something that I think is so incredibly important, which is you get to choose. You get to choose how you do this. It is smart to heed medical advice from medical experts, and it is smart to heed dietary and nutrition advice from dietary and nutrition experts. It's good to consult people on decisions that you make about things that they know more about than you do. Okay, that's all good and true and wonderful. When I first, 7 years ago, when my husband and I first started eating this way, and I was trying to do everything perfectly, and I was researching my brains out, and it was so all-consuming and overwhelming. I remember at some point saying, like, we can't eat this, we can't eat that. And someone, and I wish I could remember who it was, because this has stuck with me so strongly since then. Someone said to me, Stacy, you do not owe this to anyone. This is your journey. This is the word they used at the time was, this is your veganism. Now, I do not personally identify as vegan. I'll explain that in a second. But this is your journey. You don't owe it to anyone. You do it the way you want to do it. You this is for you. It's not for anyone else. And that was so freeing and so empowering to me. And so I try really hard to empower other people in the same way. I really don't like this kind of terminology when people say, I can't eat, chicken. I can't eat ice cream. Or people's friends say things. I mean, I've had this happen socially. You sit down at a table and somebody orders a appetizer to share with the table, and it comes. I mean, this has happened so many times. It's ridiculous. It comes, they set it down in the middle of the table, and someone turns to me and says, Stacy, you've got to try the Brussels sprouts or whatever. And then they go, ooh, you can't eat that because it has X, Y, and Z. And I don't like that. I'm very personally triggered by I can't have whatever. So I always correct that kind of language. I always say, I can have anything I want at any time. So can you. We are all just making choices based on the goals that we have in mind for ourselves. It is always your choice, always, 100% of the time. Don't do it because Stacy got on Kathy Hester and told you to do it this way. Do it this way because you understand and that clicks with you, and that's how you want to eat, and that's how you want to live. You get to choose. And it's that way at the doctor's office when they're suggesting treatments for you, and it's that way there in the kitchen when you're making lunch for yourself. It's always your choice. What we do is we merely provide you the scientifically backed evidence and our case that eating a predominantly whole foods, plant-based, starch-centered diet, eliminating or minimizing your intake of oils and animal products will set you up most likely, most strongly for a healthier quality of life for all of your years. That's all it is. We're just giving you that, and you get to do with that message what you wish.
I think that's awesome. So thank you. And we've kept you way up past your live time. But no, it's always fun with you, and I always appreciate it. And we've got you on the books. I probably shouldn't even try to guess. I think our next one is in July.
I think so. Yes.
Okay. I think so. So I'll send it out, and I think so. You guys, someone had said too. I thought these were at 1 for the summer. They're going to be at 11. So, but I'm putting that on all the things. So just kind of think ahead, and I think there may be a couple of months that we only do once that month instead of twice. And that's so Stacy can have a life and still come and help us on her spare time, which we appreciate.
Yeah, you're welcome. And it's always going to be that way, you guys. I cannot commit to I'm not saying this to you, I'm saying this to the audience. I cannot commit to a fixed schedule because sometimes we're in programs, sometimes we're not in programs. Sometimes I'm seeing patients. Most of the times I'm seeing patients. Sometimes it's summer break and my kids are home. Sometimes it's, sometimes I'm on vacation. So all that to say, hey, be flexible with us. It's whatever time it's going to be next time. And I'm so sorry that I can't do a fixed schedule, but
we appreciate that you're here, and just know that it's awesome. And we thank you so much for all your information and help. So just go out and have the very best day. That's to all of you and Stacy and her family.
Thank you.
I may go to bed in a little while. It's gonna
Obviously,
Go to
fixed
bed.
schedule. Obviously, I can't ever do a fixed schedule either. So.
Right.
And
Most of us cannot.
Sometimes you think I just don't put Cheryl on, but sometimes Cheryl just disappears, and that's when she's not on. Actually, that's true. Apple was on Pacific time and said, Stacy, I love you so much. I woke up early for this, just for you.
Thank you, Apple. I'm so glad. Thank you for coming. I hope it was helpful to you.
Oh, I think, and Beth said, I always enjoy learning new nuggets from you, and you're just awesome. But I'm going to let you go now, And we will talk to you in July again. And so if you guys have some questions, keep them in your head or go to the free heartbeat group. Maybe I should make a Stacy thread over there and that we could pick some of those up. Although between you and I think we could talk about anything for any length of time.
Yes, and you probably have, like me, have been told that since like kindergarten. Like you could talk the paint off the wall or whatever.
Did you ever get the talks
true.
too much on your report cards?
100% of
See,
the time.
I would finish, I read really fast. So like I missed reading, but then I read really fast. Like, so I'd put the book up and then usually I'd read 2 extra stories and put the book back up. And someone else would come up after me and they'd be like, you didn't read that. But they never did it to me because I read it. But so I get bored and then I'd be like, hey, let's talk. I'm bored now.
Right. It's talking time. Yes, absolutely.
Exactly.
I identify with that.
I got designated as ringleader in, it was elementary school during a parent-teacher conference. My mom came home and told my dad. He said, how'd it go? And she said, we have a ringleader.
Oh my gosh, how funny. And look at you now, little ringleader. You're doing it.
Exactly. Okay, you guys have an amazing day. Do something really nice for yourself. If you have a little bit of extra energy, do something nice for someone else, even if it's a plant in your garden or petting a dog. Okay? Let's keep it easy and exciting today. And if it's hot, stay inside and drink more water. That is all I have to say today. Do you have anything to add, Stacy?
No, it's just been such a pleasure. I look forward to seeing you all in July. Take care of yourselves.
Okay, bye everybody.
Bye, everyone.